I've made my fair share of night theories, that being 2, but you know, it's Deltarune, there's not much else to theorize about. So who actually is the knight? That's the question we'll be answering in this video, and let's be honest, probably the next 7. We've got a ton of candidates to get through, so let's see what each of them have to offer. And maybe prove Ralsei is Flowey? Now, is there any actual evidence for Chris being the knight? Really, is there anything that would suggest... Well, yeah, I mean, like, aside from that, is there anything? Well, believe it or not, besides just, you know, that, there is actually tons of evidence for Chris being the knight. Let's look at some of the more common evidence that people suggest. To be the knight, a character has to meet several qualifications. Let's go over those real quick. They would have to be acquainted to the Dark World in Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, and would have to fulfill these certain requirements. They'd have to match for when was it opened, why was it opened, who could have opened it, and who wanted to open it. And Chris actually matches a lot of these. By being the silent protagonist, they actually perfectly match the who, what, where, and when. Chris is a student at the school, their mom goes there, and of course they would have tons of motivation for doing so. Because let's be honest, they'd love to escape to a fantasy. Their life isn't great at the moment. And when it comes to the Chapter 1 Dark Fountain, there's tons more evidence that I don't have time to go over here. So just look up literally any video on the topic, and you'll see a great one by Game Theory, for instance. Many nameless YouTubers theorize that the first Dark Fountain was created when Asriel and Chris were playing in the closet when their mom left them there during work. Chris is the one that goes towards it and maybe reopens it, kind of like opening up a traumatic wound, and that would be a very thematic story beat. To see Chris going around opening all the dark worlds while we the player are trying to stop them. I think that'd be really funny and seems like something Toby would do. There's no shortage of Papyrus is the Knight theories, even my own, and let's be honest, there's tons of evidence, and I'll probably come back to prove that because of all of this insane evidence, it's inevitable. He's probably the knight. I'm gonna be completely honest with all of you, but I'll save that for a little stinger at the end, for a little humorous bit, and those of you who remember me saying this will be extremely confused as to why I'm being so meta. But there's other evidence I didn't have time to go over in that theory. That being things like, well, I don't know, the merch that literally has Papyrus behind the tree, just like the Eggman, who has commonly been theorized to be the knight. I'm putting him in number 2 for now. Now, for most people who are just, you know, casual players, they might be absolute losers and not have done the hours and hours of research I did, and they wouldn't know about Gerson or this line that seems to imply that Alvin might be the one creating dark worlds with his hammer, just like how Chris used a knife. Additionally, Father Alvin's a religious figure, very religious, and in the prophecy, it states that they're gonna banish the angels' heaven. And it's not a character we know, so I'm putting him in number 1 for now, honestly. Okay, who put this guy on my list? Who put him here? I'll put him in at the bottom. Maybe second to last. Gaster, the one behind it all, the one that is commonly theorized to be the knight. However, he's like shattered across space and time, so I honestly don't think he could be the knight. I can see him puppeteering the knight, and that seems like the most obvious route they're gonna take, but getting his hands dirty doesn't exactly seem like Gaster's forte. He's definitely still behind everything, but probably not the knight itself. So I'm gonna be putting him right here. Okay, so in Chapter 2, the library Dark Fountain is open, and that doesn't make sense for most of the knight candidates. But there is someone who we know was there, because the dog was doing donuts in the parking lot and distracting people when it happened. And it shows back up in the dark world, and that means that in this world, their god is actually the dog. And aside from that, I don't know, that's all the evidence I have. Anyway. So obviously for Deltarune, Asriel's actually away at college, which already kind of negates him as a candidate for most of the Dark Worlds. But I still think he could be a knight of some sorts. I mean, I just made a theory about the dog being the knight. It would perfectly match Chris's character arc if they had to fight some sort of embodiment of Asriel by the end. And of course, it would be a parallel to Deltarune. and Undertale. You know, I mean, it's a theory, but that's all. We're at 5 minutes, so fine. So, candidate, it's another candidate. I think it's number 8. No, that's not right. It's the vessel. Why is that's what people call it? I'm so tired. So the vessel is like deleted in chapter 1, so it can't be them. So now we'll do redacted. Redacted isn't important. Alright guys, I think I'm gonna have to give up here. I'm sorry, I know you wanted a longer video. If this next candidate isn't good, I'm gonna give up. Oh yes! It's Rousey! Yes! For anyone who's been on this channel for a long time, and I'm sorry for your mental health, you all know that I love me a good Rousey is actually Flowey theory. And you asked for 10 minutes, so I get to do whatever I want in this last bit, okay? So in Chapter 2, the Dark World is open, with very few candidates being an option. The only other person who really shows up there is someone you wouldn't expect. The person who directed you there in the first place. That being Rousey, specifically asking you to go do your homework, and then it just so happens that a Dark World opens up right there in that exact spot. It could be a storytelling beat that would actually make a whole lot of sense. However, once you get to the Dark World, Rousey just magically shows up. It says, I felt a dark presence and hurried over. It's so dumb there, I stuttered. That's a huge red flag, which is why I think that he could have also opened this Dark World. But to do that, and to open the one that he directly leads you to in Chapter 1, he would need more of the abilities of the Knight. He would be able to move outside of Dark Worlds. He would have to be able to have determination to open the Dark World and know about Dark Worlds. So, how could he do all of this? Well, he could if he was actually Flowey. Oh yeah, he's going in the number 1 spot, folks. It's Flowey. It's Flowey. You can't change my mind, or else it's unless, wait, in Chapter 2, they say a large person could fit inside of that closet. And that seems to be hinting towards both Birdly and the Knight simultaneously. That the closet's 45 pixels tall from my count, and Papyrus's overworld sprite is 42 pixels tall. So he could absolutely fit inside. And now that I think about it, storytelling through puns is a Toby Fox thing, and he would literally be a skeleton in a closet. And I mean that as in like the secret thing, like he has a secret that being he's the Knight. I'm not referencing him being in the closet because of this scene, but and then there's all of this stuff, a lot of it. So he's almost definitely the Knight. So I'm going to be putting him in spot number 2 because it's still Rousey. Ha! Bite me. That's the one I'm going with. End card time. Hey guys, thanks for sticking with... darn it, I stutter so much. There's some AI stuff at the bottom about proving Rousey is Flowey, but even the computer doesn't agree with that theory. So you might notice the audio quality's bad. It's because I have to rush off to school very fast at the moment. However, I do have some things I want to address. There have been some rather big problems on the internet and with Deltarune as a whole lately. So I thought that in addition to the theory, I was going to be putting an end to all of this and all of the secrets around what it is. So I'll tell you about that right now while I brush my teeth. Honestly, I know that. So, that's a little harder. Yeah. Well, no one's watching the end card anyway, so you're the only one who heard that. Thanks for understanding. Well, I gotta run to school really quick because I'm about to miss my bus. However, there are still 20 seconds I have to fill up because you guys wanted another 10-minute video. So, listen to the rain and just know in your heart that it is indeed raining somewhere else. Get it?